Hey guys, how's it going? So this week I want to talk a little bit about hip warm-ups, or what you can do to do a little bit of self-assessment or self-correction as well. And one of the things that I notice a lot of people doing in the gym, or people that complain about having tight hips, is that they'll go and they'll bias into external rotation. So they'll try to drive that knee out, they'll go into like a frog stretch or a pigeon stretch, something like that. That's going to help them bias external rotation and abduction, going out of the body. This isn't the best strategy, especially if you don't know whether or not your hips are already biasing external rotation. So that's a thing that a lot of people have issues with. When people assess or self-assess themselves, they'll feel that they have tight hips, and so they'll say, let's get more hip external rotation because my knee caves in when I do a squat or a deadlift or what have you. And that's really not the case. People don't really know how to self-assess to determine whether or not they truly need more hip external rotation. If you have the femur and you take it in the acetabulum, in the hip socket, people will just assume that this femur is always centrated. But sometimes that femur is biasing more towards external rotation, so it's no longer centrated. And when it tries to go further out, like you guys pushing the knee out, then it catches on the outer lip of the acetabulum. So it has nowhere else to go but back in. So people will misconstrue this as hip abductor weakness or glute weakness, when it really is just a positional issue. You know, what position are you trying to generate force from? And that's the thing that I feel a lot of people don't really understand and don't know how to decipher whether or not this is their problem. All right, so I'm going to show you a quick drill on how you can figure out where your hip is in space and what you can do about it. So for this setup, you're just going to need a patch of flat ground, and you're going to stack your knees and your hips on top of one another. So the drill is going to focus on the hips, but there's one thing you have to be aware of with your upper body. Take your top hand, place it so that the fingers are facing you, and I want you to reach forward with that elbow, okay? As you reach forward with that elbow, I want you to breathe out. So then you start to feel your ribs moving away from the elbow. So as the elbow reaches forward, the ribs are getting pulled back from that exhale. So play around with that a little bit. You can brace with the base of your palm if you need to, get some stability. And just exhale as you reach the elbow forward. So that's what you're doing with the upper body. With the lower body, I want you to pay attention to the position of my knees and my hips. So I'm not trying to use any tension below the knee. So I don't want to pick up that bottom foot. I don't want to claw my toes. I don't want to do anything. This is kind of just dead. So from this position, what I want to do is I want to inhale and drive my top knee straight down, okay? You're going to feel high inner thigh start to kick in. I don't want any involvement from this bottom leg. So you're inhaling, you're driving this knee down. You're thinking of just pressing all of this pressure straight down without activating any calves or any feet on the bottom, okay? So that's your inhale, is going straight down. Without losing any of this downward pressure, you're gonna exhale and slide the top hip back and slightly up. So you're gonna get a hip hike on this side. Exhale, you're going to slide back and slightly up without losing any of that downward pressure, okay? So you're going to start to see a separation of these two knees. All right, it's going to look like this. Inhale. Exhale. In. And you're going to get a ton of inner thigh from that exercise, okay? Generally, you're going to want to get about a fist worth of separation between the edge of the two knees, and you're going to want a lot of high inner thigh. Some people might get quads, some people might get some adductor right by the knee, and you want to avoid getting it down there. You want to focus as high up by the groin as you can. because this is telling you that you're actually getting adduction and hip internal rotation, which is what you really want. A lot of times what people will do is that they'll be able to start crawling back, but the only way that they'll be able to crawl back is if they lock up their quads, if they start using quads, or they'll do this. So they'll get plenty of separation. They'll get a lot of shift back, but this is inauthentic shifting. The only way that you can shift back into that hip is if you are pressing down with that top leg, all right? Why is this important? If you can't do this, okay, this is a baseline hip shifting drill. If you can't adequately load one side of your body, and this is without any real load because gravity is helping you press down onto the bottom leg. If you can't adequately load one side of your body with relatively no weight, there's no way in hell that you're going to ever be able to manage something like a split squat or a single leg deadlift. And then forget about any bilateral exercises as well, okay? Because if you can't load that one side when you're trying to distribute the weight between two legs, you're not going to be able to shift or generate forces onto that right side either. So now one side is going to have to do most of the work. All right, so that's something to think about. Try this drill out, try to see how much inner thigh you can get up high by the groin. Cramping in this exercise is fine, it's perfectly okay. If you feel that you're not getting as much movement as you're seeing in the video, try to work more on integrating the exhale with that reach with the elbow. All right? Hope you guys enjoyed the drill. Feel free to drop a comment and subscribe to my channel. See you guys next week.